It is my pleasure to introduce Symphony CEO Brad Levy to the Innovate stage.
Awesome. Wow, full room, high vibe in here. I don't know if people feel it, but it is definitely something. So welcome to Innovate London. It is truly wonderful to be here in person and streaming through the world. Thank you to the team. We are a financial technology software company. We do not put on events. But this is amazing, the fact that we can put this together, and it really, at least for me, has a bit of a wow. So thanks to the team for getting it done. But mostly thank you to all of you for being here online or in person. Your time is a valuable, very precious resource, and we will use it wisely today. So I think it's clear, at least it's been for me and many, the journey over the last 2 years has been quite long. So much has been set in motion, from hybrid work to a new space race, and even more outdoor dining, which is great, at least as a New Jersey person. These are game-changing times, a lot of change coming. It is thrilling, but fraught with many challenges for sure. There has been a lot of fog. It doesn't look like it's dissipating, and it does make it hard to see those next steps. But throughout, much has been learned, for sure, and we're still on that learning journey, no doubt, and more is coming. We are proving that we can really adapt and manage well. I would say remarkably well, actually, all of us, and with progress each and every day, like days like today. Today, we're going to explore how we can continue to develop for the future as a community, as an industry, and we all must continue to grow. It's never really been more important than now. Today, we're here to profile where we're focused, but obviously, more importantly, we're here to help. Today's about you, it's about your firm, it's about your job, it's about your future. So let's really begin the day. 6 months ago in New York, we had our Innovate event, and it was connecting people with purpose. At that time, it was a very over-connected world, seemed fairly chaotic on a relative basis. It was actually quite calm. But really, the thought was, let's bring us together, let's talk about technology and how we can just move through. But wow, look at all that's actually happened in just the last 6 months. It's almost a decade really compressed. So many shocks. Volatility is here, maybe here to stay for a while in all markets, apparently. Inflation is spiking, not news. I'm sure we all feel it. Interest rates going up, maybe at the beginning of that cycle. Oil, nickel, grain, gold, and crypto. All volatile, all moving, all interesting. Technology waves. Start with Twitter. 16 years ago, Twitter was a disruptor, really interesting. It's been disrupted. Wow, like overnight. Amazing. Can't wait to see what happens there personally. Netflix, 25 years ago, actually. 25 years ago, Netflix. Probably in the middle of a challenge themselves in the streaming wars. Elon Musk alone, the number of companies and the number of things that he is driving technologically on this planet and beyond is truly remarkable. The pivot for Facebook to Meta. Not sure it's a good thing, but it's happening, and this immersion technology is on its way for all of us. Microsoft buys Activision Blizzard to get the gaming community more embedded within their workflows or world. Google buys Mandiant, goes bigger on the security space. Geopolitical shocks, obviously they're happening. The Ukraine, and if you think of the combination of what Elon did there in a minute and what's going on there, it's obviously something real and impacting a lot. What's happened in Germany politically, what looked almost possible in France, El Salvador using cryptocurrency basically as its base. So all of these things coming together. Life moments. Will Smith. It's gone. I can't even do that anymore with him. Like he lost his mind. Maybe it's a symptom of everything. It's unfortunate, but it happened. Omicron didn't really exist 6 months ago. It came, it seems to have went, at least here and in New York and other places, maybe not in China. The Olympics happened. Do we remember? By now, we would still be talking about the Olympics. They just kind of came and went. Amazing. But the reopening, it's happening. We feel it. And obviously, more crypto. But so many things hitting hard. Symphony met this critical moment and was really there for you. And we believe that. We created secure environments to collaborate with each other internally and externally across the industry, not locking you in. It's really critical that we do not promote lock-in to anything. We want people to use it, but helping you build those integrated workflows that are more interoperable over time, and you'll see a bunch of that today. Helping you connect with clients and counterparties, where they want to be met and how with unique technologies, and developing new technologies and partnerships that really create more leverage and a huge amount of scale and deeper workflow. So we remain focused on you. The reality is your world is getting more complex, as is ours, and you need the right tools to connect with purpose to not just survive, but to ultimately thrive. There's a black and red book, which I'm sure people use, and there's quotes in there, and there's a quote that's always in my black and red book from Isaac Newton, which is, "My powers are ordinary, it's my application that brings me success." And it's probably never been more important to have the right tools for the time and the task. So we are at that critical juncture right now. Things have actually become noisier and appear to be accelerating. January passed, I wrote a piece, Risk, Transformation, and Trust. And the idea that we're in this riskier world, we're going through transformations, and how do we move through this together? Examining this moment more like a 2020 kickoff that might take sort of a decade to pull through. The point of the piece is there's more volatility moments coming at a higher frequency, creating just a bigger velocity of change. And you might look back after 2030 and say that was a decade of a super cycle of changes. I believe it, but we'll see. So we're in these rolling critical moments as people, as firms, and the financial services industry is under pressure, from onboarding and compliance to execution and settlement. The workflow must get better, it must get faster. If you like the Matrix, there you go. Technology is changing industries, there's just no doubt. Netflix was a disruptor, Twitter was a disruptor. Now they're being disrupted, and they are technology, and they're being disrupted by other technologies. It is driving new business models, more software, more services, more on-demand, more mobility, and more social. All coming, and our industry is part of that. The period is driving huge innovations. There's no doubt that great big things, or little small things added together, happen during these times, creating many moments for good. Communication technology is really come of age. We are all about that, delivering better tools and better systems so that you can work from your edge personally and manage from that place as a firm or as a person. The distributed world or the decentralized finance world still may be theoretical, but there is no doubt that when it emerges, which it will empower us. It will allow us again to work from that edge more effectively. Our applications will be there. We'll be able to protect our data more elegantly. Ultimately, we might even reduce our energy footprint from a more distributed world. But the cloud specifically, we've been talking about the cloud for some time. AWS launched in 2007, same year as the iPhone. It's now coming of age in our industry. We're embracing it, we've been there, and we really are going to see more flexibility, more mobility, more data science, more available to more people, and just this mass scale efficiency, and cost will compress, and innovation will rise even more. Innovation will never stop. If it does for yourself or your firm, be afraid. You always have to be moving forward. And we are all pushed, though, now to work effectively and efficiently through this time as change occurs. We're not given a pass. We believe ourselves as a company and as a platform, and working with you, that we create these bridges between what you were doing and where you want to go, between the traditional finance world, the decentralized world, between the front, middle, and back, helping link traditional operating models with new technologies and a new way forward from the inside. So Symphony technology sits in the middle, it sits under, and it sits around. It's actually quite hard. It's a challenging spot to be in if you really think about trying to be in between a conversation, be available for a conversation, and be a platform underneath you at most times. It's full of friction, resistance. We have to be able to move as a company in a more nimble way as we reflect what is going on or what may be coming. You're focused to exist in this middle all day and all year, and you're challenged to thrive in this environment. So as these rapid changes take place, at the same time, you live in this duality, and there's many dualities, and I generally think in these terms. So in the market's terms, there are stocks and bonds. There are some times where they're quite unrelated, and other times where they could not be more connected, and there's a lot of rub between them, like now. The new issue markets and the secondary markets, sometimes thought about as separate and distinct, they're actually the same risks, just with different people doing jobs. The public market and the private market, thought about separate, now converging in many ways, or at least heavily connected and related. And the more or less regulated world. In workflows, there's a front and the back office. There's automated and manual. There's internal and external. From a client perspective, you're dealing with an institution, and then you're dealing with people. And how do you deal with covering a firm and working with people? There's the buy side, the sell side, and then all of the providers like us around that get into these push-pull type field. So you could be junior or senior. That drives your job. You could be in the office or at home or in hybrid. That drives where you do it. You could be on email, chat, or the phone, and all of those things are competing. You can't be in the office and at home at the same time. You can't really be typing on this and maybe looking at that as easily as a person. We help you simplify all of this, full stop. It's just what we do. We can't do it alone, but we can help you navigate this broad fog in the middle, or even walls at times, and help you go under or around. For those of you in the markets, we really have some amazing things coming, and you'll see today again in the voice world, where we're connecting it to more collaboration services, as well as making all of that available via the cloud. For those of you maybe more in the processing transaction, will be more embedded, will be more interoperable, and really reduce your context switching, which is really, it's just critical in a volatile world that you aren't forced to move around unless you need to. And then ultimately, for your clients. So, there's this compliant bridge that you need to communicate and meet your clients where they are. And we have those types of products. But ultimately, it's about you. It's about us delivering tools and products to you. It's about you having a network and you bringing your network together with what we're doing. We're focused today on how we can retool, how we can move fast, and how we can thrive. And that is the royal we. We want to give people power over tech. There's just no reason why we cannot control this. It's a fact. And we will, through technology, work together better. Delivering institutional value, which is what matters because the institutions pay the rent, but a great user experience and really serving the person on the other end of something. Enabling all technologies through the front, middle, back, and all markets where we think we can make a difference. We're focused on partnerships, and we're an open architecture platform that really allows us to, again, create that leverage in the industry stack broadly. So in the midst of change, I know I do, and we're all looking for this clarity and a clearer way forward. At Symphony, we look to have a really active role in creating that clarity. Again, we cannot do it alone, but we do think that we can play a leading role. Understanding the potential pitfalls and the risks of accelerating change is really key to navigating it effectively. And again, I'd say we see that just about every day in our lives. On that note, I want to welcome another colleague to the stage, Corinna Mitchell, our General Counsel. Corinna. There you go. So that's like that's how we did it during COVID when you couldn't shake hands. That was our method.
Yes.
A little funky, but that's how we roll in Jersey. New Jersey. So Corinna wrote an amazing piece with our CRO, Gary, on
friction, not fraud.
Friction, not fraud. Sorry, it was an amazing piece. Just blank for a moment. Friction, not fraud. And the idea is, you want to do your job. You're not looking to break the law. You're not looking to not be compliant. But you do need the tools to do your job, and there's some friction. You're not committing a fraud. So I thought it was a great piece. Certainly resonated with me. Corinna, who is a pitfall avoider, but also a business accelerator, which is actually not common for a lawyer. I don't know if you're familiar with that. They tend to block things. But Corinna is not a blocker.
Thank you.
So you're somebody who moves things forward. So, on that note, when you published the piece, what do you think? What was the most surprising sort of thing that came back to you after putting that out into the world a couple of months back?
Well, people were refreshed that there was no finger-wagging tone, and that what we did is understand that you need to connect with your customers in multiple different ways, and there is a way of doing it compliantly. So that's a different approach, which really, I think, rang true with a number of people.
Well, and thank you for that, because we do need people that can promote the forward, even though they're protecting us from ourselves sometimes. So I will now exit. I'll leave it to Corinna and the rest of the team. I hope you have an amazing day. I know I will. Some of this will be a surprise for me, not bad surprises, just things I haven't quite seen yet in full form. So it's really, I hope you enjoy it, and I'll leave it to Corinna, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Brad. He set it up very nicely for me, and I did just want to say that Brad's article in January was quite prescient, in fact, so much so that I think of him as our Bradstradamus. But I'm going to be touching on some of the themes that Brad mentioned, which include complexity and volatility, but focusing in the area of regulation. I know it's after lunch. I've said the word regulation, and I am a lawyer, but I promise to try and keep it thematic to keep you all focused. So actually, speaking of themes and regulation, I think we're in the middle of a really large cycle which involves regulation, technology, and markets. And what am I talking about here? We have regulatory efforts. There's a lot coming out at the moment, and I'll touch on them a bit later. We have regulatory efforts, whether they be new proposals, whether they be opinions, guidance, or enforcement action. Those regulatory efforts, in turn, affect the boundary of our markets, our businesses, and that also then affects what we do on a day-to-day basis, how we do our jobs. Can we do it the way we did it before, or do we need to change to keep up with these regulatory efforts? Which then, of course, leads us, technology providers like Symphony, to say, let's try and find a way of reducing the friction. Let's try and solve any problems posed by the new regulation and make it easier or make it better. Regulators then pay attention. What is happening in technology? Is it important? Is it something we can utilise? Or is it something that we should perhaps look to govern? And so the cycle goes on. And I think it's really interesting to think of the regulations that we face in the context of this kind of big super cycle of regulation and technology. So what am I talking about then? I like to think of the current regulatory efforts that we're seeing in Europe, in the UK, and the US in terms of two buckets. So one is about speed and efficiency, and the other is about accountability and transparency. So speed and efficiency. Can we do something faster? Can we do it more accurately? Now, I don't know about you, but for me as a human, I think I've reached my maximum personal velocity. So I just can't do anything any faster. How are we going to get faster? Well, the fact that technology can provide the solution is not lost on regulators. So what am I talking about specifically? And I have to get a little specific now because I am a lawyer. The SEC has proposed that settlement will now be T+1 rather than T+2. That is a 100% increase in speed for settlement. And in Europe, ESMA has, as part of a very ambitious capital markets program, a reform program, announced and is implementing the CSDR, the settlement regime. And we as an industry are still chewing through the implications of CSDR and how to make ourselves more accurate and more efficient. And I think this is just the beginning of a whole lot of regulation that seeks to leverage technology that may not even exist right now to make things faster and more accurate, because of course we know that context switching and having to multiply enter different facts and data points can lead to errors of many different market moving types. So a lot of puzzles there. We at Symphony actually think that we have an important solution to part of that puzzle, and we are going to announce it today, our technological solution for some of these issues. I'm not going to do it now. I'm building anticipation for my colleague Krishna Nadella, who is going to announce it later on today for you all to hear for the very first time. Okay, speed and efficiency, fine. But we also have to do things in a more accountable way, and we have to be more transparent. What do regulators want us to do here? Well, there's quite a few different themes, and one of the most far-reaching and interesting is what the SEC is proposing in the US and what ESMA has outlined in their opinion in relation to markets and exchanges. So in the US, the SEC has proposed far-ranging changes to the definition of what is an exchange. ESMA has issued an opinion which gives clarifications as to their view of what constitutes a multilateral trading facility. Both these proposals, regulations or opinions have in common putting technology at the very heart of the spotlight and the questions that regulators are posing about where does a market begin and where does it end. And I think it's very interesting for technology providers how important a part of the multilateral markets the regulators think that we should form and do form. The SEC's proposals are also quite far-ranging because they talk about all securities being subject to exchange regulations and rules if they're multilateral, including cryptocurrencies and many different types of bond instruments. So, what about other record keeping? We've already talked about the requirement to record keep for customer communications with WhatsApp, SMS, and WeChat, and there's been large enforcement actions, which I'm sure a lot of you will have seen. Luckily, Symphony has a solution for that for you. But we also see efforts by the regulators in relation to cybersecurity. So, for example, the SEC has released proposals requiring record keeping and transparency for both private fund advisors and also public companies, and these are also quite far-ranging as far as record keeping goes. Luckily, Symphony is very secure and is end-to-end encrypted, so it can help with those issues as well. So that's a whistle-stop tour of some of the cycles that we're seeing with regulation. Now I'm going to ask to come onto stage our Chief Product Officer, Michael Lynch. Michael, come on out. We were trying to think of jokes to make, but we decided that legal and product were the most straight-laced and analytical and maybe boring areas, so we're not going to tease each other about that.
Sure. The third was accounting, but that's okay.
But Mike is going to talk to you about how we turn some of these problems and this friction into products that we can use that help us keep up with our busy day and get on in this very complicated world. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Corinna. And thank you all. I've got the fun job today, got the exciting job, maybe the easy job, of talking to you about how Symphony is going to help you succeed in this time of friction, fraud, inflation, volatility, all these things. And you know, it's really exciting for me to be here, and I appreciate that, and I thank you for that. I joined Symphony just under a year ago now, on June 1st, the same day Brad took on the CEO role. Before that, though, some of you may know I was a customer. I was even a board member of Symphony. And the thing that's always amazed me with Symphony is its potential energy, its potential to change the way markets communicate. And my view is that a lot of that potential has been realized in the first 7 years of Symphony's journey, but not all. And what I'm excited to talk to you about today is the new ways that we're going to try and achieve that potential energy, but also highlight some of the ways that we've already done that. And I think one product that you'll hear a lot about today, and you've already heard it mentioned a couple times, is our federation capabilities, the way that we allow our customers to use Symphony to connect to their customers on WhatsApp, WeChat, standard texting, because this was a market problem, a real market problem. It's of great regulatory scrutiny. We had a solution. We were able to help our customers do their business to the best of their ability, meet their customers where they want to be able to be met, and ensure that they had that compliance control. I don't think anyone here is going to be surprised to hear that that product for us has grown 800% as we've seen more and more customers adopt it and use it. We're going to have one of those customers up on stage here today later, and one of our other key customers for this platform, HSBC, has won numerous awards for their global private bank chat out of Asia, where they enable exactly this, to enable their private wealth advisors to connect to their customers via their chat platform powered by Symphony. But today, my job as CPO is to help you and help me help you, there we go, I got it, show the potential energy of Symphony and how we're going to turn that potential energy into transformational value, helping you succeed in this market. So I already kicked off with one physics reference, and I know we're following the regulation segment, but bear with me. We talked about potential energy. I'm going to add one more physics reference here today. I was trying to think of an analogy that helped us understand Symphony, and I think what we're trying to do, and that concept is called signal velocity. Signal velocity is a physics concept that measures the speed at which a wave carries information. It helps you understand how quickly a message gets delivered between two parties. And for us, the way we change markets, the way we help you connect, is by building products that maximize that signal velocity. So we're going to do this in 3 ways today. One, we do this by decreasing the distance between the origin of the signal and the destination of the signal. That can be content, that can be data, that can be people, but it needs to be as tight as possible. We're going to remove obstacles in the signal's path, workflow friction, extra steps, et cetera. And most importantly, we're going to harmonize that signal, harmonize that information across multiple streams, minimizing context switching and connecting capabilities. All of this is to unlock high-value information, getting the right information to the right people at the right time, maximizing signal velocity, cutting through that fog we've been talking about. So let's talk a little bit more about how that's going to translate into our priorities and what you're going to see today. So how are we shrinking that distance? How are we going from point A to point B and bringing those two closer? We acquired Streetlinks last summer. For those of you who don't know or don't remember, Streetlinks is a directory product that enables the secure and seamless exchange of roster information between the buy side and the sell side. So a hedge fund or an asset manager can provide their information about their PMs, their analysts, their traders, coverage, interest lists, region focus, contact preferences. Keep that secure. The dealers uploads their information about their research coverage, sales coverage, and there's a 2-key model of exchange of that information so that those 2 firms can provide the exact right information to each other one time, not bumbling with spreadsheets and, God forbid, fax machines to exchange roster information, throughout the, at quarter end, et cetera. Today, you're going to see Streetlinks in Symphony. You're going to see us have Streetlinks be able to access in the context of a Symphony conversation so that when you're looking for who is the right person to talk about this topic, a single click can find that for you. We're also going to talk about federation and how we've been able to bridge that historically vast gap. Think about it. A, B, users on institutional messaging platforms versus your customers on WhatsApp. They used to be a gulf this far. We've brought it close together, hitting that immediate collaboration need, but also meeting your non-negotiable compliance requirements. Our Cloud9 acquisition last summer as well, truly transformative. Now, for Cloud9, over the last 2 years, what you've seen is how they've changed the trader voice industry with their API-first, cloud-native approach to trader voice, providing user flexibility and location flexibility. I don't know about you, but I can't think of 2 other features that are more important over the last 2 years than those 2 capabilities. And that's what Cloud9 has brought to the market and been able to transform the way users communicate to one another, both within their team and to their counterparties in a trader voice-centric world. Now, what we're going to show you today is what we call internally this idea of instant voice, how we take those Cloud9 voice capabilities and connect it into your Symphony flow. How do you connect that disparate tool set? Again, A and B. Your trader turret sitting on your desk over here, your messaging platform sitting on your screen 8 screens away. How do we bring those together so that when you're in a room chatting with your team, but you need to tell them something that you can't wait to type through lines, that you click a button and they hear your voice, getting your signal to your team as fast as possible. All of which, of course, given our API-first approach, enables downstream and upstream insights using our world of AI and NLP partners, one of whom you'll see later today in our community showcase. Now, so we talked about bringing A and B together. Let's talk about how we remove the obstacles between so that that signal can transmit as quickly as possible. We've adopted the FDC3 standard for desktop interoperability, allowing customers and partners to orchestrate their desktop experience. That allows them to combine proprietary applications, third-party platforms, and now Symphony into what I call a coherent and orchestrated productivity ecosystem. We announced this last year, and what I'm really proud of is that we announced this last year, and we're showing it to you today. We've been able to deliver that and be able to make that available to our customers and to our partners. Krishna hinted at once, here's hint number 2, is going to get up here later and talk about new ways that Symphony can be embedded in an application workflow, removing the physical distance that used to exist between data and collaboration in these platforms. And all of this, of course, continues to be our emphasis on open, flexible APIs and our open architecture. And how can we ensure that we enable you to have the flexibility you need to create your workflows in and around Symphony? We released our new low-code workflow developer kit, or WDK, earlier this year, and we continue to build purpose-built We continue to build purpose-built integrations for the market that enable the connectivity between Symphony and other industry standard platforms. Later today, we're going to unveil our Microsoft Teams integration that allows you from a Symphony chat to start a Teams video meeting. One click, getting you into that meeting when you need to talk to your colleagues if Teams is your platform of choice. This matches with our Zoom integration that we released at the end of last year, enabling a similar workflow, but for those of our customers who prefer the Zoom platform for their meetings. So how do we harmonize this? How do we bring all this together to enable that maximum signal velocity? Hopefully you're understanding today that Symphony is far from just a messaging platform anymore. We provide all of these services, many of which that you're going to see today did not exist a year ago. And what we want to do throughout all of this is we want to enable you to connect with their data, the information you need to be successful, to do your job, with the workflow, the processes, the procedures, many of which are incredibly complicated in our market to be able to succeed. And lastly, the people, the customers, the colleagues, your counterparts, the people that you need to exchange your ideas, your services with to get that information from point A to point B. And that's all done via our Symphony 2.0 desktop platform that is now used by all of our customers. This also is done via our mobile application, enabling that flexibility and compliance, both of which are critical to the entire market today. All of this working together to unlock that seamless access and accelerating signal velocity. So, what are you going to actually see today? You're going to see 2 demo sessions from Symphony. We're just going to showcase a lot of what I've just spoken about. The first we call our omni-channel demo, where we're going to showcase that shrinking of the distance between point A and point B, showing the ability to have multi-channel communications in the context of a single market workflow. You're also going to see our workflow connectivity demo, where we're going to showcase how we're removing workflow friction and connecting your ecosystem of applications to one another powered by Symphony. And then you're going to see a series of exciting demos from our community of customers and partners, showing signal velocity very much in action. I'm going to be here one more time, sorry, with my colleague and our CIO, Dietmar Fauser. We're going to wrap up, summarize a little bit of what you've seen, hint a little bit at the future, and geek out just a little bit for you, and talk about how we're going to accelerate our transformation even further in the future. But before we get started, and I know, enough with the videos, let's get into some real demos. Every demo here today is live. We think this is really important for us. So no deep fakes, no CGI, no auto-tune, whatever else you can use to make it look good. This is as live as it gets. We are showing it to you here. We've got our team in the back running these. You might say it's a bit crazy. I'm not going to disagree with it being crazy, but it's important to us because we live for a bit of a thrill and we like to live just a little bit dangerously.